The days are longer, the calendar is filling up, and I want to feel as good as this beautiful summer weather. That's why I've been loving Groons. It's one daily pack of gummies that covers my greens, vitamins, and minerals, and even has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber. So I don't need to juggle a complicated wellness routine on top of everything else. They taste amazing. They're easy to toss in my bag on the go. Plus, they're vegan, gluten-free, and HSA, FSA eligible for reimbursement. Save up to 52% off with promo code podcast at gruns.co. That's code podcast at gruns.co.
It's 3-3 Dallas and Buffalo if you're interested.
Yep. Not that he wasn't listening to your question either, but
it's a good thing that I just figured out the game's over my head now and not like 40 minutes ago.
So we are all surprised.
By the way,
Anthony...
I'm listening to the questions. It's not the answers. Just to be clear.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Welcome back to Worst Seats in the House. Michael Russo, Anthony LaPanta. Thanks for everybody coming on out to Splitrocks on this beautiful, beautiful Wednesday night on the eve of the postseason, essentially. Thanks for everybody coming out. Hopefully all these people are here. There's bingo next door. So if you're, this is the podcast.
Yeah, right.
If you are in the wrong room, the bingo is next door.
Hold your cards.
Yes. So, Anthony, man, it is getting exciting. Isn't it crazy how fast the season, it's even faster for Dallas because they're in Buffalo on Wednesday night, Wild at least finished on Tuesday night. But, day off Wednesday, practice here on Thursday, fly to Dallas immediately, practice there Friday, and series starts Saturday.
It always amazes me how fast you get going when the season ends.
Yeah.
It feels like you should have like a week to prepare. And instead we've had some years where it's been like an off day, a practice day, and a game. At least this time there's 2 practice days. I can't wait. The last 2 regular season games it felt like preseason games where all the things you want to talk about are really stuff you're saving for opening night, and in this case, saving for game 1. But then there's nothing else to talk about, so you wind up talking about game 1 the whole night anyway. And it made me thankful for the fact that here in the state of hockey, we've had playoff hockey to talk about 12 out of the last 14 years. I can't imagine having 3 weeks of games like that didn't matter down the stretch.
Yeah, I totally with you. The only difference between these not being preseason games is the pace. That's the difference. Like it were very much preseason type lineups, but yet you could tell that these players had played 80 games.
In Anaheim, in the Anaheim game, I agree with you. The St. Louis game felt like a preseason game.
Yeah.
Neither team could complete a pass. It was sloppy, bouncing pucks everywhere. Anaheim, because they had a lot to play for. It was amazing going into that game. 2 games left in the season. They could have still finished first, second, third, or fourth. They could have still played any of the 3 Pacific teams, Vegas, Edmonton, or LA. Still could have played Utah, still could have played Colorado.
Yeah.
5 potential opponents and 4 potential landing spots in the standings with 2 games left.
That team 1-6-2 going into the playoffs. I know you hate the term limping into the playoffs. They are freaking limping. Yeah. And man, do they look like a team that might not even get a victory in the postseason.
Yeah, it depends on who they play. But if right now they know they can't win the division anymore, they still do have a chance to have home ice in the first round. I don't see how they win a game against Vegas if that's who they end up with. I don't see how they win a game against Colorado. Utah's now off the table. I think maybe LA might be off the table now too for them as a first-round opponent. But it's 1-6-2 now, 1-5-2 coming into the Wild game. And what was most alarming about that is 7 in a row had been against non-playoff teams, and yet they had won only 1 of them. That team, they're a mess in their own zone right now. Some of the veteran defensemen they brought in really haven't stabilized things. They've got seemingly 3 or 4 defensemen who are more interested in playing forward than defense. And a goaltender that can't bail them out right now. He's 85% over his last 7 starts. Early in the year, he was stealing some games for him, but yeah, I think it's a team that overachieved. I don't see how they win in the first round.
Let's talk wild goaltending, Anthony. Obviously, I think that's the topic of the day right now. I'm sure a lot of people here in this room are going to want to talk to us about that. And, I think that you and I both would agree that no matter how Gustafsson and what Wallstedt have been playing, that most likely Gustafsson is starting game 1 of the playoffs on Saturday. Does last night change things, though? Because Wally's just playing great right now. And, this is to me a dilemma. Like every time the last 3 times Wild have been in the postseason, they've had essentially dilemmas, right? 2022, I think it's extremely clear that Marc-Andre Fleury was promised, if you waive your no trade to come to Minnesota, you're starting in the playoffs. And they never expected, because they traded Fleury because Talbot wasn't very good before the deadline. They never expected that Talbot would reel off points in 13 straight games, and then they didn't change their mind because that promise was made. Then eventually, at the end of the series, when the series was essentially done, down 3-2, Talbot goes in. The Dallas game, same thing. Start Gus, kind of played games after the 50-save win. They play Fleury game 2, they get shellacked, and then they come back with them. And here's a situation where Wally is the veteran, but you can't argue with the numbers right now. And 6 of the last 7 games, is it, or 5 of the last 6 that he's given up 4+, and Wally has just been outstanding, 2 or less in 8 of his last 9.
Yeah, Wallsted's been really good down the stretch, and it's 4-1 in his last 5. Didn't win in the previous 7 before that. I think they've both had their moments this year. And I think in my opinion, I shouldn't say my opinion, my guess is they'll start Gus in game 1. He's been their guy. He's been their guy throughout the year. Early in the season, there were times where Wallstedt struggled and Gus was great. Then midseason, there were times where Gus struggled and Wallstedt was great. One hasn't been clearly better than the other over the long haul for the season. If that was the case, let's say Wallstedt had been better for 80 games, then I think you'd be having a different conversation. This is a short sample size right now. Gus doesn't look confident to me, though, and that's concerning. And it isn't just how many goals he's given up. It's the way he's carrying himself in the crease. He doesn't look confident. But a couple things I think you have to keep in mind. One, Wallstedt is a rookie, and to throw a rookie into game 1 on the road, I think is a dangerous spot. The only time he's played in Dallas, he gave up 7. Mm-hmm. And that
was a very
but still, if you start the rookie and the rookie gets game 1 of the Stanley Cup career jitters, and you've crushed the confidence of Gus by taking the game 1 start away from him, you're in a tough spot then. If you start Gus and he's not great, you go to Wallstedt, and I think the beauty of what they've done throughout the season is they've built confidence from the team in both of them, where I think the guys wouldn't think anything of it. It wouldn't be a panic mode if you went to your backup goalie. I think they all have faith in both of them. And I think Gus gets the start in game 1, and it wouldn't surprise me even if the Wild win game 1, if Wallstedt doesn't start in game 2.
Oh man, let's do that again.
Well, I mean, no. Look, if Gus stops 45 in a 2-1 win,
they've already proven that doesn't
right.
matter.
But that was a little bit different. It was a late start, double overtime game.
Yeah,
and I think they overthought it. But in this case, it's likely going to be an afternoon game Saturday, likely going to be a late night start Monday. So you'd actually almost have extra rest. But let's say Gus plays and they win a 4-3 game. It wouldn't shock me if then you went to Wallstedt in game 2 anyway.
Do you think he essentially has to win to get game 2? Like if they lose, even if he loses a close 2-1 game, it just feels like his leash is going to be very, very tight.
It'll be short, but I also think it depends on how he looks. And does he look confident? Are pucks sticking to him? The first goal the other night in a game where, yes, the lineup was less than what his normal lineup is in front of him, but the very first goal that went in, he looked like he had zero confidence with it. And I know that
I didn't like his demeanor after that game. I thought it was very concerned. So, I'm the one asking questions in the locker room. In the Dallas game, he almost seemed borderline indifferent, but then I worried, is he depressed? Okay. The game in St. Louis was almost defiant. Like he and I had a tough back and forth, and really listening to it over again, Anthony, he was almost excusing the first goal by bringing up the fact that guys aren't blocking shots. And I'm like, it's an unscreened point shot from a guy that hadn't had goals he hasn't scored.
It wasn't 100 miles an hour is what you're saying.
Yeah. And then
it was a puck that had to be stopped.
Yeah.
Now, John Hines stood in front of him a little bit afterward, and it was valid. There were a couple goofy bounces. One, Buchnevich fans on a puck, and it happens to land right on the tape of a teammate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was some bad luck, but you also make your own luck.
Yeah.
And you look in the game against Anaheim, there were a couple times where you could tell Wallstedt didn't see the puck because his head didn't turn until after the puck had hit him, but he was in the right spot. So it's you do make your own luck, and you're prepared for that kind of stuff. Yeah, I don't think Gus has been great, and I don't want to share things that I shouldn't, but let's just say the Wild coaching staff is really tuned in to the psyche of these two goalies, both of them, and they've both had. Look at the season Wallstedt had last year. It was all about mental development for him. And that was nothing was by chance the way that was handled during the offseason. And then early this year, they really were careful about when he played and where he played to make sure that they rebuilt his mental game. And they're well aware and are tuned into what Gus is dealing with right now, which I think is a lack of confidence. If I had to guess, and I haven't talked directly with him about it, but it's a guy that he's hearing all the same questions every night. What's wrong with your game? He's seeing Wallstedt playing well. He's hearing the fans for sure starting to say, it's got to be Wallstedt. It's got to be Wallstedt. He's been better. He's been better. And, I'm sure that's starting to wear on him a little bit. I think you might see a guy, if he's tabbed that game one starter, just be able to take a deep breath, relax, and start playing again.
Yeah.
Or you might see a guy that struggles the same way he has been down the stretch. And if you do, you've got Wallstedt there waiting in the wings.
Yep. Isn't it amazing, though, Anthony? You got this, what has been a real strong suit for them all year long, which is their goaltending. You and I talked last week about the best save percentage in the league. That you have this best team, maybe arguably, at least on paper, in franchise history. You're feeling so confident to go into this series, and the thing that might unearth everything is unravel everything is their goaltending. I mean, it's the goaltending decision, because it's either way you're getting second guessed, right? Unless one of them's going out and firing a bullet every single night,
right? And I think this is a series that, if the team with the more expected goals wins every night, the Wild will win the series, in my opinion. I think the only way Dallas wins the series is if Ottinger steals a game or two, which he's certainly capable of doing. And that's the one spot. I think the Wild, they don't have to have goalies steal games, but they can't get out goaltended in the series. And that's been the problem in the last three rounds of the last three first-round playoff exits. If you look at it, the 22 series against St. Louis, the difference of saves above expected for the two goaltenders, the Blues were like plus 2.8, the Wild were like minus 2.7. That's 5.5 goals in a 6-game series. That's a goal a night. Margin was almost the same in the Dallas series. Dallas Ottinger was like plus 4.2 and the Wild were minus 0.8 or something. 5 goals in a 6-game series. That's a goal a night.
This is in all situations?
In all situations. Yep. And in the Vegas series last year, the edge for Vegas was like 2.5 goals in a 6-game series, but they won the 3 1-goal games at the end of the series.
Right.
And that's a lot. I mean, it might not sound like much when you say one team's plus 2.8, one's minus 2.7, but when you're only talking about 6 games, 5 goals in a series that is as tight as all 3 of those series have been, that's a major deal. And I think in this series, the Wild have to be even in goal. And if they're even, I think they've got a shot to beat this Dallas club, especially with some of the health that Dallas is battling right now. But they can't be upside down in the goaltending battle.
Yep. Rube Hintz obviously has been out for a while after getting injured on the check from McKinnon. And it sounds like he had a setback, and they're saying that he's going to miss this at the minimum the start of the series, but that he's not going to be 100% when he comes back. And Miro Heiskanen, I think it's very clear he hurt his knee on the check from Ryan Hartman, And, again, if it's an MCL, he's not going to be 100%, even if he's ready for game one. And that's a huge, huge blow to them. And look, I mean, we saw this in 2023, right? Eriksson Ek was out for the majority of the series, pretty much everything but a shift. Ryan Hartman missed game 2, but played the entire series on a knee injury. Kaprizov clearly wasn't healthy. So
it feels like the Wild haven't gone into matchups with Dallas healthy ever. And so this, not that you ever, I mean, I'd love to see the star players from both of these teams on the ice for this series, but Dallas is now dealing with a little bit of what Minnesota's had to deal with in these other series.
Yet they are still a really good team. Wyatt Johnston and Jason Robertson, 2 40-goal scorers.
Well, think about the fact that they lose Hintz, and the guy that slides into the top 6 is Matt Duchene. I mean, they've got some depth that is what I believe makes them as good as anybody in the West. And if healthy, their lineup, I believe, is again the deepest in the conference. I thought it was last year, and I think it is again this year. I mean, even if you lose Heiskanen, you look at some of those guys they have on the blue line, they've got depth there too. And the game Minnesota just played down there Thursday, when they were missing They were missing Radek Faksa, too, in that game. They were also missing Lundqvist on the blue line.
Sam Steele.
And yet the Wild get 3 power play goals and still lose the game 5-4. I mean, that's – and I thought Minnesota was the better club throughout much of the night, but Dallas outscored them 5-1 when it was 5-on-5.
Minus 3.11 goals against expected goals against for Gus. It is interesting because the special teams is going to play a massive role in this series like they do throughout the playoffs, but 2 exceptional power plays, finished number 2 and 3 in the league. The Wild's penalty kill is so good down the stretch. You've talked about their combined special teams, both teams since January.
All season, Dallas is at the top of the league. Minnesota is in the top 10. And I think if you look, again, go back to these last 4 series where it's felt different for Minnesota than some of the playoff appearances back in, say, the mid-2010s, because these last 4, I've thought they've been as good as their opponent. I'm talking about Vegas, St. Louis, Dallas, and then Vegas again. But in those 4 series, they've struggled with discipline and then on the special teams. They're minus 13 in power play opportunities in those 4 series. They're minus 14 in special teams goals in those series. And in only one of them did they have combined special teams of over 100, which – by definition, the 2 teams have to average 100. So in the last 3, they've been 90 and then in the 80s twice. Mm-hmm. You can't win with that. And I think this year they have the ability to match Dallas in terms of firepower on the power play. But I think the big key is Minnesota's penalty kill has been better. Dallas's power play has still been their nemesis over the course of this year. They have 4 power play goals for Dallas in the season series. I think Minnesota has to be able to maintain the discipline, and then somehow they've got to have a penalty kill that keeps those special teams even.
I was talking to Marcus Foligno about this the other day because it's a fine balance, right? And remember, Marcus became fairly unglued in the 2023 series. Took 35 penalty minutes, was kicked out of game 5, took 2 minors in game 4, an embellishment minor in game 3, which I think is what drove him nuts because you and I have talked about, the perception that maybe one team does dive and the other team, doesn't. But it is a fine line because you got to play physical against that team, but you have to do it in between the whistles, so to speak. And, the one thing that did concern me a little bit, because I think that Nick Foligno has proven that he should be in the lineup. But if he is on that same line with Marcus, if I was Dallas the other night, I would have gone in that locker room and my key would be hit Nick every single time because Marcus is going to become unglued. And we saw it on the one play behind the net when Bischel put Nick through the crease. We saw it on the other play when Blackwell went after Nick after he scored the goal, and Marcus just went to town. And it's one of those things like, maybe the smart move would actually be playing Nick Foligno on the line with Yurov and Tarasenko and Trenyan on the line with McCarron and Marcus and keep the brothers away from each other.
Yeah, well, I think Marcus would defend other teammates too.
But you get what I'm saying.
A little
right?
bit, but I also think that game in Dallas, I thought was a recipe for how Minnesota has to play in the playoffs. They were by far the more physical team. They delivered a message that this series is going to be different, and yet they got 5 power plays and Dallas got 1 because they didn't retaliate.
Yep.
They've been really disciplined with stick penalties. I thought John Hines explained it pretty well, where he said, we've had a lot of games where the conversation with our guys has been, get a feel for how the officials are calling it. Okay, they're calling the first hit and they're calling the retaliation, so we got to make sure we play it carefully in these kind of spots. And I think where Minnesota's discipline has come into play all year has been they haven't taken the stupid stick penalties. So you can be as physical as you want between the whistles and know that in most cases it's going to end up without a power play, with a 4-on-4 at the worst. And I think Minnesota showed they could do that when they played last week down there, because the game was feisty and the game had all that playoff feel to it, and yet it wasn't a parade to the penalty box for Minnesota.
Yeah. It was funny when Nick got the double minor, because the referees just mistook Nick and Marcus and probably should have given them both a minor. But Nick was like perplexed that he got 4. But then when you look at the replay and you see what Marcus did on that shift, you realize that cleiarly the refs just saw 71 and 17 and got a little dyslexic, so to speak. Ben Dexheimer, the captain for the University of Wisconsin Badgers, former Blake School, signs a 1-year contract with the Wild today. Riga Lorenz, a 2-year deal with the Wild. So 2 college free agents now with Viking and Ben. Ben's had a heck of a year, heck of a college career. And you knew the second in Joe Smith's piece the other day where he said if the Wild call, it'd be amazing to play for them. All of a sudden, they just perked up and gave him a call. And that's exactly what happened. The way I understand it is that they had Zooms that day with 6 or 7 teams. The Wild were last. And an hour later, they got the call that he was coming to them.
It was interesting. We chatted with Bill Guerin during the broadcast last night about Minnesota becoming a destination for both veteran free agents, but also for college players. And the way he talked about it, it takes a lot of pride in it. They've tried to create every advantage they can legally to make life better for the players. It's a salary cap league, so they can't just outspend people in terms of salary, but they can make the facilities great. They can travel as well as they travel, stay in the places they stay, eat the way they eat on the plane. Then they can make it so that everybody's comfortable and well cared for. Families feel welcome. Fans certainly have something to do with it, and the players love the community and love it as a place to live. But we talked about all that. There was an agent poll about best places to go, and he takes a lot of pride in that.
Who bylined that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It was Ryan Carter brought it up on the air last night.
Yeah, I wrote it. Thanks.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I mean, it's just unfreaking believable.
Well, I didn't read the article, but I caught the gist of it. So I'm sure it was well written.
Why do you think I've been telling you for 3 weeks? I talked to this agency. I talked to this agency. I talked to this.
I don't know. Usually it's just blah, 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 blah. But anyway, when he talked about then some of the players when they scout to draft or to sign college players, he said, we don't take it lightly. Like, we want to find players that have been captains. We want to find players that have won, whether it be Memorial Cups or NCAA championships or conference championships, whatever it is. He said, we value all that stuff. And that has landed or put them on a couple of good players that have really continued the culture they've created. Because yes, it starts with Billy, but it continues through the coaches and then through the leadership group within the locker room. And I think Minnesota's is special.
Yeah, I concur with you. Let's go back and talk a little bit of the lineup, and then we'll take questions. And by the way, this is the Aquarius Home Services studio, and thanks to our newest sponsors, Great Clips and Stretch Lab as well. We talked about we know the first and second lines. There's no reason to go through that. Are we both, since I've wavered on every single podcast for the last 3 months, are we both in agreement that Bobby Brink's starting on the outside looking in?
I think so. I think Danila Yurov has the last maybe 4 games has played his way into it. I really think it was likely to come down to those two. I think Nick Foligno had proven his worth and I think John really liked the idea of having McCarron and Marcus on a third line or fourth line. I think Yurov has just been terrific these last couple of games. He's been physical. I wonder if maybe there was a little internal competition felt where he felt like he had something to prove. I still think his faceoffs are going to be an issue in this series. Dallas is a really good faceoff team. Urov still sits at 39% for the year. The other night he got beat on 8 out of 10. And I think in a series where some of those key moments could be the deciding factor, I am worried about that. But I think he's played his way in for game one. I don't think it's a lock that it means this lineup's going to be the same throughout the series, but I think for game one, he'll be in.
It's another reason, I obviously was being a little flippant with the whole Marcus becoming unglued if you go after Nick, but it's another reason why I kind of think that Nick being on that line might make sense, because then he could take some of those draws if Urov's having a tough night, and then that you're still having a monster fourth line with McCarron, Trenyon, and Marcus. And it just, the one thing that Nick has shown me the last couple games is that he could still play an offensive-minded type of game. We see him set up Hunter Hate's goal. Michael McCarron is short. He scores on the one goal where Trenyon hits the post and Damon Hunt was robbed. I think Nick's got the ability to still play in a top 9 role.
Yeah, I think so. I like the idea of a fourth line where you've got he and McCarron with a lefty-righty face-off combo, and now it's a line you can trust. You could start periods with him. You can use him in the defensive zone. I think Trenyon has shown a little more. Now, to offensive punch is going to sound ridiculous with how many points he has this season, but he's created some plays with his physical player along the wall here lately. That line's had some magic at different times during the year. They've also dried up at different times. So I think it'll be interesting. But I think if it's me, I'd start with Tarasenko, Trenyon, and Urov together. Start with guys in roles where they've been for longer stretches with a little more comfort. But I know for a fact that John's got a lot of different ideas for not just line combos, but also game plan. If this isn't working, we've got this in our back pocket. Haven't necessarily showed it to the players yet, but as coaches, we know we have it. This is our adjustment. This doesn't work. Here's our adjustment. And I think he's got a lot of those with lineup.
And we'll find out in practice on Thursday if Zach Bogosian's a participant, and if he gets 2 practices in, if that's enough to get him into game one, or if Jeff Petrie is the guy that's going to start there. Question.
You've heard me talk about the Onyx Hunt app on here for years. Well, make sure you download the Onyx Fish app as well, because before you even pull the boat out of the garage, you can sort lakes by species, trophy potential, and keeper potential, so you're not just guessing and you're going out with a plan. You could also use the Onyx Fish app to filter walleye, bass, panfish, whatever you're chasing, and see species abundance and size data so you actually know what's in the lake before you launch. Everything you need to get there and get on fish is all in one app. Boat ramps, lake access points, public versus private land, points of interest like bait shops and camping. It's all built into the app. No more scrambling around 3 different apps or outdated reports. Onyx Fish gives you the proven fishing area data and local insights that used to take years to learn. So you could do a decade of knowledge all in about 10 minutes. So download Onyx Fish on the App Store or visit onyxmaps.com/fish. Spring fishing is here. Go find a lake you've been driving past for years and finally find out if it's worth the launch. You've heard me for years talk about my Connecticut water treatment system in my house. Well, many homeowners don't realize how much hard or poor quality water affects your daily life. Issues include cloudy water, bad taste, buildup on fixtures, dry skin, appliance wear, everything. Well, I have your solution, and it's Aquarius Home Services. They are your authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Connecticut systems provide worry-free water throughout your entire home. Systems right now start at $9.95 per month for the first 3 months. It's $9.95 per month for the first 3 months. Their technicians will come to your home and provide a free in-home water quality testing analysis. Aquarius handles everything from your testing to your installation. One call and your problem is solved. You can enjoy spotless dishes, softer clothes, smoother, softer skin and hair, worry-free drinking water right from your faucet. That means no more plastic water bottles, no more water cans, everything. You'll be surprised also how little salt it uses. Visit right now or book your services at AquariusHomeservices.com. That's AquariusHomeservices.com, earning the right to be recommended. That's Aquarius Home Services. And don't forget to tell them that Russo sent you.
Are you looking to move a little easier and feel better day to day? StretchLab can help. StretchLab is the leader in one-on-one assisted stretching with locations across the Twin Cities. Every session is customized, whether you're chasing a loose puck, grinding through men's league, or just trying to keep up with the game. It's not just recovery, it's mobility, prevention, and performance. Tight hips, sore back, it's all about staying in the game, whatever your game looks like. Don't sit this shift out. Book your first stretch today and feel the difference. Life comes with a lot of things to remember, and Great Clips doesn't think your haircut should be one of them. That's why they use clip notes to save your haircut details, so no matter which stylist you see or Great Clips salon you visit, it's easy to feel like the best version of you. So do yourself a favor. Say goodbye to guesswork and hello to a great haircut every time. Download the app today. Great Clips. It's going to be great.
Okay. So, like I said, I want to beat a dead horse here with the goaltending. It sounds like we have one extremely fragile potential starter in game one. And I just don't understand this. Why is it so difficult to just play the guy with the hot hand? If we would have done that with Cam Talbot, chances are we would have done better in the series. Now, I know there was extenuating circumstances that you brought up about Marc-Andre Fleury, but now we're faced with the exact same circumstance is that we have a starter that is just played terrible. On top of that, he makes those asinine comments after the last game he played. He choked in the Olympics. He choked against Dallas in that last game. And he hasn't looked good in the last half dozen games. Meanwhile, you've got a rookie that's playing absolutely out of his mind. And we're scared to use him. And one of the reasons you brought up is because if we go to Wellstead and he falters in the first game, then we've got Gustafsson, who's obviously mentally fragile, going into the second game. Why do we concern ourselves with that? Why don't we just go for it?
I don't know if that's. I'm just guessing that if I was a coach, those are the things I'd be thinking about.
Okay.
But the only thing, there's some differences to the analogies you make. I mean, number one, Talbot was the better goalie for 3 months. Ballstead's been the better goalie for about 2 weeks. Talbot's a veteran. Ballstead's a rookie who's never played in a Stanley Cup playoff game. I think all those things are factors. I'm a big fan of Jesper Wallstedt. I think he's going to be a terrific goaltender, and I think he's going to play in this series. I think, in fact, I think if I had to guess right now, whenever this playoff run ends for the Wild this year, my guess is Wallsted's going to be the guy. At some point, he might take this job. But game one of a Stanley Cup playoff series is a really tough spot to put a rookie who's never been there before. It's tough. It just is. So I think I think Wallsted's been terrific, but I also don't think Gus has been, over the course of the season, he hasn't been better than Gus clearly from start to finish. Although these are just things I think the Wild are probably considering.
Okay, I understand that. But you said earlier that you thought Wellstead and Gustafsson, there wasn't, that they played pretty even throughout the series, throughout the season. Now, obviously, Gustafsson's played twice as many games as Wellstead. I don't know.
Well, not twice, but
yeah, he's played more.
So,
and got the tougher draws for most of the season because they were trying to ease Wallstead back in to build his confidence. So if it was here's a week where we've got Colorado and Calgary, Gus was getting Colorado, Wallstead was getting Calgary. The first time they went to Wallstead in a spot where it was okay, now it's your shot, was that Colorado game that he won in a shootout. Up till that point, they were really trying to build his confidence back up. And I'm not saying Wallsted's been terrific against good teams. In fact, we mentioned it on the show last night. Among all goalies in the league, he's got the best save percentage against playoff teams of any of them. So he's played well against good teams too. It's a great problem to have, to say that we got another guy who's good that is chomping at the bit.
I do think that's a little cliche though. I think to your point, the great problem to have could derail a playoff series. They have to make the right move here. And I will say I changed my mind last night. All along, I've been saying to Anthony, I think you got to start Gus. I think you got to start Gus. But last night against the team that had something to play for, he was great. He's so suave about some of the things he did. Even that little flip the puck into his glove, the sprawling back to his
on
net.
Top of his game.
It just.
But the only other thing I would say is this run right now where he's been good, really good, 4-1 in his last 5. one of the wins was in Florida against a team going nowhere. One of them was against Seattle, a team going nowhere. One was against Ottawa, a team that they were hurt. They were pretty mediocre. He got beaten Nashville, and then last night beat an Anaheim team that they were the better club, and he played well. But it isn't like he's won 4 out of 5 against Colorado, Dallas, teams that are on top of their game right now, like Buffalo or Tampa or somebody like that. I don't want to I don't want to exaggerate how good Wally's been and how bad Gus has been down the stretch. This is my guess what they're talking about inside the room. I'm not saying that they're looking at it, well, what if we lose game 1? What's better for game 2? I just think as a coach, that's what I'd be thinking about. Because the other thing is you've got Gus locked up here for the next few years.
Yeah.
And if you all of a sudden in this spot yank that away from him, which isn't right either because he's played his way into this spot. But if you take that away, you could lose a goalie for the future as well. Like it's not give him game 1. If he doesn't play well, now you know it's on him. And you can easily say, look, you got game 1, then Wally was better. So he played the rest of the way.
I sensed a lot of tension in that room in Dallas because I think they know that they play, you scored 3 power play goals, as you said. They played well enough to win that game, and they somehow were questioning how the heck they lost that game. That concerned me.
Well, we know why they lost that
game.
Yeah.
That and the third D pair wasn't very good that night either. It wasn't just Gus. I didn't like his comments after the game in St. Louis, too, because he was also saying that he was blanketing the entire 5 or 6 games into we're playing like inferior lineups and guys not blocking shots and things like that. And that's just not accurate. The impressive thing about what we've been seeing from the Wild are guys like Boldy throwing himself in front of shots and things like that. So as much as his play on the ice, his demeanor off the ice, his last 2 games in the locker room really concerned me. And that's why I've changed my mind. Let's put it this way. I will say this. If Wallstedt starts game 1 in Dallas, the Wild changed their mind too, because I think it's extremely clear that they were planning on playing Gus game 1.
Okay. Yeah. So do you know of any personal problems he's got?
I mean, no. I have
no. Well, no. I mean, you hear things, so you.
I mean, if I did, I wouldn't share it on the show anyway. I mean,
well, I mean, you wouldn't have to.
Unless Alex breaks your microphone.
I mean, all of a sudden,
you've
got a guy that was our starter, for most of the year. Now he's in a complete skid. He says these ridiculous comments after a loss. I mean, that he wouldn't be saying something like that before.
No, I mean, I think he probably reads a little too much. He knows, to Anthony's point before, that 1 is Wally's playing really well, but 2, after that Nashville game, we were questioning who should start. And I just think that it's such a position where you lose confidence so well. So he's being a little defensive right now. Clearly he and I obviously had the back and forth the other day. Look, I'm really not worried about him. Like if he plays game 1, and it would not shock me if he plays really, really well. But I will I do agree with you that the last week has been weak more than even the previous 3 or 4 games has been concerning, just based on what happened against Dallas and just his comments after the Dallas game and his comments after the St. Louis game, because the Dallas game was a weird Gus too. It wasn't like we normally see him.
Isn't it funny how when a guy's in a slump, they give up weird goals?
Yeah.
And that's what I was saying earlier, that there's something to be said for making your own luck, because he's not the first guy. I mean, remember when Devin Dubnyk was not the year that he came in and
remember the one goal he gave up in Dallas?
Well, I remember one night where he gave up like 6, and he's going through them, and he's like, well, this one hit this guy's skate and went this way, and then this one hit this guy, and I was thinking it was going to go. Now, the 5th one, that was on me. And I was like, the 5th one was on you? Like 4 of them looked like they shouldn't have gone in, but those are the kind of goals that when a guy's not playing well, you get the goals like the ones that went in St. Louis, where it just seems like every bounce lands on a bad guy's stick instead of last night. Wallstedt got a couple fortunate bounces.
And that game was concerning too, because he gave up 2 other goals that were overturned. So he really could have given up 7 that game. It hasn't. I mean, it hasn't been good. I mean, I think, his demeanor is still fine off the ice. He obviously, I think, played the practical joke or was part of a team practical joke on Wallstedt yesterday. I think I said this on last
That
week.
actually, when that all happened and we found out that it was likely Gus, I'm assuming it kind of actually made me worry about him a little less, because I thought if he's still that loose that he's.
Except that this, as Wally explained it, this apparently was supposed to happen around April Fool's and didn't, so they took the jersey back a couple times. He is a prankster, man. He played one on me the day after April Fool's that he is still proud of. And I fell for it hook, line, and sinker, and it essentially ruined about 2 hours of my day. It did wind up getting me a scoop on Viking, though. But it was, I think did I not tell you about this thing?
No.
So I was at this analytics convention, this Halo convention out in Denver on April Fool's Day. So I wasn't at practice, and apparently he had been planning on doing an April Fool's joke on me. So I show up at practice April 2nd. Obviously, I have my guard down because it's not April Fool's. And Gus, after practice, gets off the ice and he comes right up to me. He goes, "Hey, you haven't, I'm surprised that you haven't tweeted about the signing yet." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, the extension. And I'm like, "What?" And then he just gave me this look and he goes, essentially do some digging. So I proceeded to text every agent of all 8 unrestricted free agents. I texted team sources, all this stuff. I walk in the locker room. He's keeping it up. And it did wind up getting me the Viking Gustafsson Nyberg scoop that this was going on. But then all of a sudden it dawned on me 2 hours later that when every agent of every unrestricted free agent is like, "What are you talking about?" I realized that this was his April Fool's joke. Yeah, only a day later. And man, did he get me. He was so happy after that. It might have been a game day. Did they play April 2nd? Because after that game, they won, and I went right up to him in the locker room, and he just was so proud of himself. And I'm like,
just
thanks.
One last question. I know how Russo feels now. Anthony, if you were the coach.
By the way, you only get one sweatshirt. I'm just saying.
No, I'm not. I already got
there
one.
for
I got
20
one
minutes,
the last one. I got the last one. So what goalie would you start?
Connor Beaupre.
Yeah. I actually think if I was, and I'm not privy to everything those guys have talked to the players about. I think if I was the coach, that I would probably start Gus in game 1.
Yeah.
And
Would you ever pull your captains in and basically say, "What do you think?"
No.
Yeah.
Never.
Because it also feels like they play really well in front of Wally.
Yeah, I think that's true, but I think you get a sense for what players think about teammates when you're just around them all the time. I think as soon as you ask the question, you put those guys in a really tough spot, because as leaders, what happens if that ever gets out?
Yeah.
That your leaders said they'd play the other guy. I don't think you can ever do that.
Fair.
Anthony, I have a question for you. I've always wanted to ask you this. Take us behind the curtain. This is a broadcaster question.
Okay.
Play caller question. It's intriguing to me. The game is so fast. You mentioned before that, in particular, the Oilers jerseys are hard to read the numbers.
Yeah.
How do you prep for this stuff with it going so fast? I mean, you've got to have some kind of trick to coordinate, because you can't possibly memorize all those names. So do you have I know you get your cheat sheet, but take us behind, how does that all work?
I got concerned in St. Louis the other day when during the pregame show you came up to me to just shoot the breeze and you had all your eye drops and contacts in your hand. I'm like, did it happen again? Because we all know he is legally blind. I'm like, did something happen with his eyes that night?
No,
I never actually asked you what was going on.
I switched contact lenses for the game because I use a set that's a hair stronger for distance, just so I can see numbers a little more clearly. Short answer is it's a lot of work to prep for it. You do have to memorize the names and numbers, because if you ever have to look down for a guy's name, you can't keep up with the play. So I use for me, it works to do it by line. I like to keep guys an idea of, okay, if 17's in the corner, I know he's playing with whoever, in our case, 71 and 47. So now I kind of know, if a righty's got the puck, Foligno's in the corner, I can't see the righty's number, but it's McCarron because I know he's on their line. That works for me, but then I go through, so I print my cards, and then I write the exact same information on there every single day, so I know what I've got, what I don't have. I use a color-coded system where anything I write in red is just a recent note. Anything in blue is a league rank. Anything in green is a head-to-head stat, so that I can save some writing. If I just write 7, 5, 12, I know that means he had 12 points against the Wild because it's in green. And so I use those kind of things so that I know what I have on my sheet. That's the only thing I'll look down at my sheet for. But you have to know the names and numbers, and my brain works that way. The beauty of the NHL is, for the teams in the West in particular, their rosters are largely the same from year to year. Teams you see 3 times or 4 times, where at least 10 or 12 of the guys I know before I even start. And then it's all right, here's a few new guys that I haven't seen before. Then we always go talk to the other team's broadcasters to make sure we pronounce the names right on their side. You can't really trust any of those sites that do phonetic spellings or anything. So I'll check with them, and then also just to kind of get a feel for these new guys. Tell me something about them or anything like that. But it's a lot of work, but you kind of get recharged then. If you think of it as like yourself as a rechargeable battery, you pour all your energy into getting ready. Then you go to the rink and it's roaring and it's fun and exciting, and then you're recharged and ready to go to work again for the next game. But it is the people that'll come and say, I'd love to have your job, or my son knows all the players. He could do your job. I'm like, well, there's a little more to it than the names and numbers, but it is a lot of work.
I should have played bingo during that answer.
Yeah.
Question mark?
I was skimming through your article.
Yeah.
If the Wild win the first round, what is the least obvious reason it happened?
If the Wild win the first round, the least obvious reason why it happened. Well, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Yakov Trenin score 5 game-winning goals. I don't know. I mean, probably I hate to go back to the goaltending, but maybe that Gus is just shines over Ottinger, right? I mean, I think that's the big because I think also because Ottinger has played so well against the Wild, but he has started to falter a little bit lately.
Yeah.
Yeah,
to me, that's kind of an obvious one, though. I'm trying to think of something that would happen that you might not even notice. And I guess for me, it would be that the Wild can be physical, but yet stay out of the penalty box. So I think they have to be the more physical team in this series. And if they can do that and yet not take penalties, I think that'll be one of the things that if the series ends and you look back and say, how'd they win? Well, they were only shorthanded 14 times in 7 games instead of 20 times. I think that might be a way they do it.
A little short over here. Looking at the guys that have been acquired at the deadline or during the season, who are those guys that Billy will latch on to as the characters and will stick around into next season?
I think a lot of these guys have the ability to, just because also if you get some fiscal certainty now and not wait until replacing these guys, then you know a little more concretely what you could pay Quinn, how much money you can go after if you're going to make a trade. And a lot of these guys have played well. Like if Tarasenko, if you can get him on a bargain, if Joe Hansen wants to continue his NHL career, if Zuki wants to play, I think they have the one guy that I've kind of wavered a bit is Zach Bogosian, just because it just feels like he can't stay healthy. He's had a lot of injuries this year, and so you just wonder. But they love him, and so he's another one. McCarron, I still have this sense that he might be too expensive for them, because I hear that that's the big reason why he didn't stay in Nashville, is that that he wants to hit a payday. And, it could be too much for the Wild to stomach. So there's a lot of answers. I mean, what do you think, Anthony?
Yeah, I'd agree. I think all those guys they'd have to come back on deals like how Johansson landed here this year. Maybe not quite that low of a number, but otherwise I think you can't afford to. You've got to allocate money to Hughes. You've got to there's going to be some money that has to be there for whatever deal they try to make to add another player, whether it be free agency or a trade. I'm more intrigued with the guy like Brink. Will they try to figure out a way to keep him around for years? Years might be an exaggeration, but I think
he's an RFA, so they definitely own his rights.
Yeah.
How about Hunter Haight? Do you feel like he's done enough to show that in camp next year he's got a real ability to make this team.
I think he'll have a shot. I think he'll have a shot. I think
because that's a way to really keep money down is you have a guy on his entry level.
Yeah. The thing he'd have to show is, can he be a bottom of the lineup contributor as a top 6 kind of skill player? I don't know that he's ready to be a top 6 centerman next year in the NHL. So, can you keep a guy like that probably has a game that's more suited for the top 6, but play him in the bottom 6? I think that might be that might be a challenge for him.
Because, the one thing about Dallas is that, to your point on Duchesne, it's, they've got secondary scoring from their second, their bottom 6, where the Wild haven't gotten a ton of that.
Right.
Now, Tarasenko could bring that. But if you throw a Haight on that line, or if a Brink could be on that line, now all of a sudden you got something.
It's possible. Yeah, I think he's shown enough. I didn't think he was very good in St. Louis, but I thought he was good against Anaheim, and I thought he was good the last time they called him up.
Question:
do you guys think Dallas is our biggest rival right now? I mean, it just seems like there's real energy with the fans going into this series on the Minnesota side. And when you guys were in Dallas last week, did you guys feel that? I mean, the building just seemed electric down there when they were scoring, unfortunately, but it seems different this year going into Dallas than it has with previous series.
I guess the better question about the rival might be for the fans, but it sure feels that way for me.
Not a lot of love between those two teams,
and I think the rivalry is legit. And this is now 33 times they've played them in the playoffs. It's only going to ramp up, and when you start to look at the core of the players, there's assuming that the teams can keep their core together. This is going to be a fun matchup to watch for a couple more years. I know Dallas is. They've got some turnover coming with a few of their vets, but their stars are young, and the Wild stars are young. So this is going to be I think it's going to be a great series that will only fuel that rivalry. Now, let's say Minnesota wins and goes and faces the Avalanche in the second round. It won't take long for that to become a great rivalry again, too.
You know what's really cool that just happened is, so I just checked in for my flight for tomorrow, Anthony. You're going to love this. So on the upgrade list,
not that he wasn't paying attention to your question, but this is more important. So he's got a flight in 24 hours, and he's got to make sure he's in seat 1A.
So here's the update. Okay, I'm number 1 on the upgrade list.
Perfect.
Beat writer. Since I started talking, beat writer Jess Myers from the Pioneer Press has dropped from 3 to 6 on the upgrade list, and Sarah McClellan's dropped to 14. So that just made me happy.
Yeah, right.
And apparently,
I'm sure all of you are happy too, aren't you?
And apparently,
isn't this just make your night?
And apparently, Joe Smith has not checked in yet because he's not on the upgrade list.
Right. Which, if I'm going to fly, that's what I do first. Is I want to see where everybody else I know is ranked
on an all first class seat charter with all the food and all the booze you want.
Should I check and see if I got a seat assignment that's different or anything? I'm sure you guys would be fascinated to know. I think I'm going to sit in row 16 tomorrow, 16A.
Is Stanley aware that you only have Phil as your wallpaper on your phone? You think he'd be jealous?
I switch it to Stanley sometimes. Here, I'll put Stanley.
Actually, it doesn't look like you have. There's Stanley. This is a treat because somebody up here at the mic never speaks, never comes up and asks questions, comes to all our shows, comes to all our Europe trips.
This better keep it.
Better be a freaking good question.
It's got to be magnetic because otherwise he's going to have to check text messages or something.
I'll check in for my flight home from Dallas.
So, okay, I read that article.
You might want to get you might want to stand on a chair. It's like Ken Cutler here.
Okay, right. I read the article, and I can't wait for tomorrow's article now.
Which one?
Hartman?
Oh, yeah. Did you know that, Anthony? Quinn Hughes.
You said earlier, because I listen when you talk.
Yeah. Quinn Hughes for Friday, Ottinger for Thursday or Friday. I haven't written it yet. And then we got a really cool story for Saturday as well.
Hartman tomorrow.
Yes, Hartman tomorrow.
Okay, here's my question. Might have come from somebody we know. Since we've been switching lines, playing different people, do you think they're going to be quicker changing lines that aren't working than they have in the past?
Not really. I think they might be quicker to change the lineup because they have some extra guys that are options, like we talked about with Brink, perhaps if you want to try to get faster. I think there's some options there, but I think they've more or less figured out what their top six,
Yeah.
what's their best top six. Now, within a game, trying to come from behind, maybe Tarasenko's got some jump tonight, and you throw him up there in Johansson's spot. I could see something subtle like that. But for the most part, I think they know what their best top six are. I think what's more interesting is, can they survive the series with Hughes and Faber playing together the whole way and Brodin and Spurgeon the whole way? Brodin and Spurgeon have been so good together. We've talked about it on this show before. They're number one in the league in fewest goals against per 60 when they're on the ice. Faber and Hughes together have created a lot, but they've given up a lot. And we'll see if that changes. If they get if they're a little more dialed in, a little less risky, then I think you got something special. But if it continues the way it is, it could be a spot where John has to split those two pairs, put Faber back with Brodin, put Spurgeon with Hughes. So that'll be more interesting to me, I think, is the deep pairings than the forwards.
I chatted a bit with Faber in St. Louis the other day. That was actually the fact that they had 10 guys scratched for 2 games in a row actually made it real fun for the beat writers because we were able to stay late and work on playoff previews. But I talked to Faber and he admitted that, and I think you and I would agree that in Dallas and Nashville, he didn't play his best games, that he probably needed a breather, that it was starting to weigh on him how much they were giving up chances, those two. And so, to take a little breath and reset, these guys have been working. By the way, they're not like one, and John pointed this out yesterday before the game. If you're worried about rust, I mean, it's not like these guys are going on vacation. I mean, they've been working their butt off in St. Louis. They had a crazy small game practice after the guys left the ice, and same thing yesterday morning. Apparently, they tried to get Fleury down there, but Fleury's in Vegas at an alumni event. So Connor Beaupre was down there and apparently took like 2,000 pucks, just was getting.
And that's not
but-
like facing 2,000
No.
pucks from the guys that are scratched tonight. Like, it's not Robbie Fabry
just
and
imagine
Nico Sturm firing them at him.
Hughes, Bold, It's not, So he was
He earned his
apparently-
paycheck that
Even
day.
John Hines joked he needed a wheelchair to leave the ice. So yeah, it was crazy. To answer my feeling is you have to see how the games go too. Like, yeah, he'll be quick to change the lines. If all of a sudden, 5 minutes into game one, it's 3-0. Right. I mean, then you start loading up maybe Kaprizov and Boldy and start to change things up. So a lot of the in game will determine how the guys are playing. Question.
Kind of a two-parter. First, I guess, in my opinion, I feel like this might be the first year where our third and fourth lines can compete, and it's not all on Krill and Boldy and them to do it like we've kind of had it before in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I guess, in your opinion, I don't think we're like a few years back when we played Dallas and maybe when we've played the Avs in the past. It feels like we're miles and miles away from them, and we're just holding on, and we're all just wait till it ends. Just get it over with now.
Yeah.
I guess in my opinion, especially last game. Did we lose, and could we win the series? Could we lose the series? Of course, we don't know.
Yeah,
but I don't think it's. From what I seen, especially last game, they don't look like
they're not that
we're
different.
climbing a mountain.
No.
Yeah,
I think
agree.
what's the best way I'd summarize that is our superstars are as good as their superstars.
Yeah,
and that's different from. I thought it was last year was the case as well. This year, even more so when you add Quinn Hughes. Yeah. So
these are two very evenly matched.
Yeah,
teams.
and I think if Hintz is out, it changes things because what Dallas has been able to do is play with kind of sets of two where Hintz and Robertson have played together, Johnson and Rantanen have played together, and then whoever's been their third guy on the wing's been fine. But that's allowed them to keep Duchesne on their fourth line, or third line, I mean. And without Hintz, they're not quite as deep there. But I think the difference that Quinn Hughes brings is what Colorado always had with Makar, what Dallas had with Heiskanen that we never had. Now we do. So I think the superstars now match.
It's 3-3 Dallas and Buffalo if you're interested.
Yep. Not that he wasn't listening to your question either, but
it's a good thing that I just figured out the game's over my head now and not like 40 minutes ago.
So we are all surprised.
By the
that
way, I'm
Anthony-
listening to the questions, it's not the answers. Just to be clear.
right,
Okay.
right.
Everybody was surprised Anthony was here on time. Where'd you go golfing today?
I hit some balls today at Columbia because I was downtown doing some stuff. So I just went to the range at Columbia. I actually was planning to play at Loggers on my way up here, but I ran out of time.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I got to tell you something. I wrote like 16 stories today, and I'm listening to you tell Bruce about how, oh, you know, little kids can't do my job. And like, what a tough life you lead. The day before we leave for a playoff series that you're golfing while some of us are actually working.
Yep. And when I sat down here, what was the first thing you said to me? You got any good stuff on Dallas I can use for my story on Saturday? How about some Quinn Hughes stuff? Have you got anything on that you can share with me?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So I got stuck downtown today because I was working on my game one prep, and it just took me longer to get out of there than I was planning. But I also have been working ahead a little bit on this because the last two games I knew there wasn't going to be a lot of talk about the matchup with the Blues against Obe Kubel and Fabry's line. So we
like also Glenn Gulletson pointed out, it's like we've been planning on Minnesota for a month, you know.
I would say though, Anthony, you've made up really two good points today that I've actually agreed with.
Only two.
Yeah, only two.
Right.
So Gus over Wallstedt to start. I mean, you just kind of got to, but short leash.
Yeah.
I don't remember the other one, but
I bet it was
wasn't
good,
really
though.
listening.
I bet it was good.
What about Hunt over Bogosian and Petrie? Now, Petrie had a good game this last game, but
yeah, he was really good yesterday.
He was really good, but Hunt just brings something.
Yeah.
And you watch him out there, he's fast, he's responsible, and I don't know, all year, I just think he's been the better D.
I think the lefty-righty thing would be the thing there. I mean, I just...
But if Bogosian's not healthy and you start the series with Petrie, if he gets exposed, it wouldn't shock me they've got faith in Hunt, so it wouldn't shock me. I mean, I think right now he's probably number 8, but it wouldn't, if Bogosian's not able to go, I wouldn't be surprised to see Hunt at some point in the series.
Yep. Question, and last couple, if you want to come on up to the mic.
I'm not really sure how to word
Somebody won
this.
bingo.
Yeah.
Did you hear that? How much do you think that was? If people at home, there's a bingo game that I'm going to be going to right after the show next door.
Probably in the middle of this question.
Yeah. No, definitely the answer, not the question.
Let me know when you're done.
I'm go for it.
All right. How much of an advantage does Dallas have on their home rink because they have access to their locker room and their training rooms during the game where Minnesota doesn't?
You mean that they have to leave the kind of the long way?
Yeah.
Yep.
And
they do
like,
have
we'll say one of our guys needs stitches and he has to go off the ice. Then he has to wait for a stoppage of play to come back on.
That is the one building where they do have a rule where they don't have that, because the Wild would be allowed if all of a sudden a player needed to come back, they could come through that middle entrance, and that does have access.
You can get to either bench from the hallway behind the Dallas bench.
And if there was an emergency during the game, they could leave that way too. Basically, the Wild locker room is right behind that bench, but to stop from potential fights and things like that, they separate where the visitors and the team leave. But this isn't like Carolina where there's no access. If there was a stoppage, they would allow that player, if he had to come back, they would allow him to come through that middle.
Yeah, because I was going to say,
you're right. It's a huge
Can we
advantage.
put a door on Dallas's bench?
Yeah.
And say you can't use it now?
Yep.
That was it.
I remember in the 2007 playoffs, Randy Carlyle intentionally. So the way it works at morning skates is that the visiting team goes on usually at 11:30 and the home team goes on at 10:30. And he would basically not have the Zamboni go on the ice until last second before the home team would go on when we were in Anaheim. So of course, Jacques made sure that when they got back to XL Energy Center, the same thing happened to Anaheim.
Even when they weren't using the ice. And he's not the only one. There have been
so much gamesmanship in the playoffs.
Yeah, and teams that even when they're not skating, they wouldn't let the visiting team go on early.
Yeah.
Nope, you don't get the ice until 11:30. I remember we were somewhere. Was it in Dallas where they just didn't? Dallas wasn't skating and they just didn't turn the lights on.
Yes,
until 11:30.
The other thing that is that in the playoffs you're allowed to watch morning skates as the visiting coaches, but in the playoffs, you're not supposed to be in the stands. And the Wild are obviously, they are going to be sharing the American Airlines Center and go on after them in every practice. And we were in Denver in 2014. I remember the Wild were convinced that there was a red light in the press box and they were filming the Wild's practices. I don't know if you remember that at Pepsi Center.
I don't.
So, yep. So, question, Jake.
Yeah, I got a quick one.
Jake used to be a freelancer at The Athletic.
So I gotta see.
Then he went into banking.
I gotta see your your prospect knowledge now that I'm no longer doing it for you.
Exactly.
But Ryan Healy, are they signing him?
Who?
He's the last
No,
of
I'm just
the
kidding.
he's the last of the free agents that they drafted for college.
It has to be signed by June
Right,
1.
his rights
You know
expire.
what? I'll be honest. I haven't asked. But
I just
will.
assumed with the
Yeah.
Ben Dexheimer.
Yeah,
signing,
my guess
probably
is no, but honestly, I don't know. I mean, I haven't asked. They're at 8 contracts now, I think. So they technically can have 2 more, but I'll send that text when we finish the show or while Anthony's answering the next question.
Right.
But I don't know.
See where Sarah McClellan's fallen on the.
What do you
upgrade
think
list.
of Dexheimer and Lorenz? You're the prospect expert.
I have a 2-year-old back there. I don't got time to watch that stuff, man. I'm out of the loop these days, so I don't know.
Okay. All right. But you know Ryan Healy.
Who?
Yeah, exactly. So, any others? Any other questions? Going once, going twice. What do you think of the Wild taking obviously a different tack than these guys right here behind us, Dallas Stars, and sitting guys, 10 guys in each of the last 2 games?
Well, I think number one, you've got, as we talked earlier, they've had a number of series where they've gone in with injuries that they were, I'm sure, a little gun shy with that. I also think they've just had a team that they've had a little bit more going on this year than most, with all of the excitement around the Olympics, with the travel schedule the way it has been. I think they just felt like we just need to give guys a couple days to recharge. And I don't think it was a small part with the way they responded to those days off where they had 4 days off just a couple weeks ago, took 2 days off, practiced for 2 days, and then came out and won 4 games in a row. If they had come out of that and struggled, I think this would have been different, where I think they felt good enough about their game after that to say, all right, let's give guys a couple days to recharge and make sure we're ready.
Makes sense. Last question of the show. This is Jake's father-in-law, that 2-year-old, your grandson.
So I'm not a great hockey mind. I watch it and I enjoy it. And but like Ryan Hartman is a fan favorite of mine, and I feel like he brings that tenacity. He can score. He plays, I think, good defense from my lens. He gets into it, fisticuff, maybe kind of that, maybe a meathead once in a while, I think they say, or I've heard. But again, like, what is the take on Ryan Hartman? Again, for me, I wish we had a few more players like him. He's scrappy, he gets in there. But does he go too far sometimes and get the dumb penalty? Is that why he has kind of the asterisk over his name? 'Cause I don't feel like he gets the credit that he deserves.
He hasn't gone too far nearly as often this year. It's been an issue in the past. And I think we talked about this last week.
That's the story that I wrote tomorrow, by the way.
Yeah.
And how, the danger of going over that edge in this series, and how he, for the most part, has been disciplined.
He has been. I think it was the last 4 years. I think it was 4, maybe 3. We talked about it a couple of games ago. He had averaged 83 penalty minutes a year. This year he was in the mid-40s. And it's been different. He hasn't crossed the line. He hasn't put the team in a bad spot. And remember, it was just last year that he was having issues with that, putting the team in bad spots. And at the worst time, with a bunch of guys injured, through the cheap shot up in Ottawa, Tim Stützle, that got him suspended for what ended up being reduced to 8 games. But it really put the team in a bad spot. And it presented the Wild staff with a chance to sit him down and say, look, it's time to change.
Yeah.
And this year he's been different. He was great in the playoffs last year, and he's been different this year. Over the last month or so, I think he's been really good.
Yeah. I mean, he has 12 points in his last 9 games. He leads the team in penalties drawn this year, 32 of them. led them in minors, but look, the type of game that he's played, I think he can handle that, especially as good as their penalty kill has been. And in the minors, I think we're 19 total. That's what the story is about tomorrow, and him talking about how he, learned his lesson last year, and he's trying to, be on that edge without, plummeting right over it. That is the show. And we really appreciate everybody coming on out.
Thanks for coming out.
Yeah, thanks to our incredible sponsors, Aquarius Home Services, your local authorized dealer for Connecticut water treatment systems, Great Clips, Stretch Lab, and OnX Hunt. Thanks, everybody.
So much coming out, there's nothing going in. I know that you feel like you're never gonna win. Oh, but the world